We believe that anybody who takes public office and puts his hand on a Bible to declare loyalty to that Constitution, for us, that is a moral, religious, political, social, call it what you will, commitment. And if there is inherent in that the idea that some Latter-day Saint would take his direction from Salt Lake, as opposed than from the electorate or from the law or from whatever it is he's sworn to, that would be as large a compromise, that would be as dramatic a compromise for a Latter-day Saint as it could be for anybody else in the United States of America.
Though I can't remember any Latter-day Saints that were permanent members of his staff, it was fair to say that his staff in the Senate was church broke. In fact, not many months ago, his legislative director called me on the phone and he said, "Ralph, you haven't called us for 6 weeks. What are we supposed to be doing?"
I know and have been a critic of the Iraq War, but I also admit to you I voted for it because I felt the Lord's hand in it. I hope it works out, but I can promise you this: you'll never send missionaries to the Arab Street until the rule of law exists in Arabia. And it has taken root in Iraq. And ultimately, I think that if that succeeds, there will be an opportunity to begin building the church in the Middle East, which is a deeply troubled place.
For in my experience, he always stood ready first and foremost as a high priest and as a covenant member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint, and receptive and able and willing to serve its most vital interest in Washington and, in fact, internationally.
This is a fiction, and I want to take it out of this election year, and you can make it for the next 90 years. It's a legal fiction. It's an imaginary anxiety, though honestly asked, because a lot of people are asking it, whether somebody's loyalty would somehow be to the president of the church. His loyalty is to that oath of office that he takes with his hand on Scripture that we espouse, and he's supposed to do what his conscience and the elected officials and the electorate of his constituency tell him to do, and that'd be a pretty adamant position for us to take.
Brethren, I'm honored to be in your presence. My parents, Mylon Smith and Jessica Udall, raised me with a fundamental principle, and that is to follow the brethren. And so while I'm somewhat accustomed to speaking with United States senators and even presidents of the United States, I stand humbly before you because I know who you are, and I know my covenants, and I know the role that you play in this world. If you want to know my position on issues in relationship to culture, they could find them in my bishop's handbook.
The last thing this church would do would be to tell an elected officer what to do, because that runs contrary to the very commitment we've made to the principle of that government by law.
I just can't stress what it means to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to have which we've had five temple recommend carrying high priest in the United States Senate, and a large number in the House of Representatives. What it means to the transaction of business, to have access, to be able to influence decisions, to reach beyond our shores. And as I said in my introduction, what Senator Smith has done, and I can say the same for our other brethren of both parties, it is of inestimable value to this church.
There is nothing quite as effective as when Ralph Hardy calls me and says, we need a meeting in Rome, we need a meeting in Madrid, we need a meeting in Belgium. A U.S. senator can get those meetings. And the Latter-day Saints tend to excel in all kinds of professions, but not necessarily in the professions of government. And having them in there and knowing that their temple recommend is more important than their election certificate is of inestimable value in terms of what I have seen.